This video may be a jumping off point for a series, I'm not sure, but I wanted to at least share something today. Hopefully it won't be too long. Do you wonder a lot about God? Do you wonder where He is when you need Him? In Jeremiah 29:13, it says, "You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart." But I personally can't say that do I seek God with all my heart? I don't want to say that. My personal opinion is the best prayers that we can offer to God are actually His word back to Him. So here's one we can cling to. Hebrews 4:16. Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. And so when you're asking God, where is He? You can remind Him with His very word, Psalms 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Or Jeremiah 33:3. Call unto me, and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things that you do not know. I want to share a bit of a story. I'm going to try to focus only on one aspect of it for this video. And I hope by the end you come to understand and are willing to believe that God can and will speak to you in the midst of heartache, heartbreak, your depression, dark and dreary circumstances that you might feel will never end. I feel as if I have been in an emotional prison for the past 21 years, and now I'm starting my 22nd year. I feel as though I've lived so many of the Bible descriptions, like the desert, the pit, the waters closing over me, feeling like an outcast for whom no one cares. But more about all that, and maybe in another video. Right now, I just wanted to share that little bit to give you context of how life has felt during all this time. In the midst of this, however, God has spoken to me, and this video is about one of those ways. Okay, so here goes. It is October 2003. I'm in the process of being divorced and separated from my family, and I'm barely functional at work. God provides a coworker who shared a cubicle with me, and my coworker, got me to start going to the gym with him. I had gotten stuck with the oldest of the two family vehicles, and so this van, I had over 300,000 miles on it. I remember I said it was the month of October. That's going to be key. One Monday, the transmission starts to fail, and it gets worse as the week progresses. By Friday, I could do about 30 miles an hour. That's as fast as the van would go. Remember my emotional state during this time, I'm barely functional. So I'm pleading with God because I don't know what to do. Now, while at the gym that Friday afternoon, evening, I asked God, I don't know why, should I get a Jeep or a truck? Right then, over the gym, the audio system where they play music, this very loud announcement. It was a commercial. Buy a Chevy truck. And that stuck with me. However, me being barely functional, I decide to escape mentally, emotionally. And the next morning, Saturday, instead of taking care of anything to do with the problem that I had with my van, I decide to go to the beach at 30 miles an hour. So I'm sitting on the sand in my little chair, and suddenly around noon, I felt like a push in my lower back, and a clear inner voice almost yelled, "Go get a truck." So I packed everything. I start walking off the beach toward the street, and standing on the sidewalk, I asked God, but I don't know where to go. Down the walk to my left, there's this guy riding his bicycle, and he's got this huge boombox on his shoulders listening to his music, except that I can't hear anything coming out of that boombox. Right as he gets directly in front of me, the boombox yells, "Maroney Chevrolet," which is a dealership in town. The guy keeps going, and again, the boombox is quiet to me. Now, as I drive back to my room, I'm still frozen emotionally, And so I asked God, okay, Lord, if, and let's call my coworker John, if he calls me now and he insists on taking me to buy a truck, then I'll go. And right then, John calls and insists on taking me to buy a truck. And that night, I end up with a Chevy Silverado. Fast forward to September 2008. My now ex-wife, we've been on friendly terms, suddenly starts to call me and bug me about getting a new truck. She did that almost every day for like 3 weeks. And now we're into October. And I kept ignoring her. I kept telling her, no, my truck's fine. I don't need a truck. But then finally, it hits me, okay, wait a minute, it's October. And I'm wondering if God is using her to get me to go buy a truck. So I go to a nearby Chevy dealer, not the one where I had gotten my first truck. I tried to make a deal, didn't go, it was too expensive. So I told God, it's up to you if you want me to get a truck. Later that same day, it so happens that Maruni Chevrolet, which is the dealer that I had bought my first truck from, called me. And they tell me they have a Silverado for me, and this time they do work out a good deal. So I decide to go. To keep the story short, without me doing or saying anything, from the first call until the time I actually sat to sign all the papers, the truck payment had gone from $450 to $430 to $410. Nothing, and I had not haggled at all. And then finally, as it turns out, it was not a Silverado. It was a step up. It was a GMC. All right, so fast forward to October 2014, and suddenly one day on my drive to work, my truck's AC, the air conditioning, quits working. So later that day, I take it to a repair shop, and they found several other problems with the truck. I start to pray about this, and I ask God, am I supposed to get another truck? Now, again, remember my emotional state during all these years. It really stops me, it hinders me from knowing what to do at times. I guess I get kind of frozen. I don't trust myself. And I don't have the energy to make decisions anyway. One night, driving back to my room, again, after having prayed about the issue of the truck, I turn on the radio, and it's a Christian radio station. Now, usually at this time of the night, it's going to be either music or some Bible teaching. Instead, this woman on the radio goes on and on about how God led them to buy a car. So, okay, I've done this before. So the next day, I dutifully went to the same Maruni Chevrolet dealer, and yep, to keep it long story short, great deal, walked out of there with another Silverado. Okay, now we fast forward to October 2018. Now, this period was a little bit like an oasis in the desert for me. Or think of when the Jewish spies got to briefly experience the Promised Land. Or think of when Abraham sojourned in the Promised Land. He never got to actually, that wasn't his land yet, but God had promised it to him, to his descendants in the future. I'm dating this young lady at the time, and perhaps that'll be a topic for another time. And one day, in October, she decides that she wants to go and trade her car for another car. So we decided to go to CarMax to see what cars that she would like. And as soon as we arrive, we walk out onto the area, where all the vehicles are. She totally forgets that we're there to look for her next car and just starts fixating on this 2016 Ford F-150 truck for me. And she just would not let it go. She kept telling me what a great deal it was. Look at all that it has. You're not going to get a deal like this anywhere else. She just wouldn't quit. And I finally started to, maybe take her seriously because of, this is beginning to be a routine with me and God, right? So I decided to pray about it. We left the dealer that night. I don't remember the details, but I did place some conditions before God because I just wanted to know if this was his doing or not. And yep, the next day we went back. It all worked out just as I had asked God about, and I left with the Ford F-150. So now this next chapter in the story is actually pretty different, and this is, just when we think we have God figured out, we don't, right? And at first, it doesn't seem to fit. But by now, I'm pretty set on, okay, God likes to bless me with trucks. So fast forward to the summer of 2024, and my F-150 suddenly starts developing an issue. Now, if you know engines, one of the valve lifters starts getting really noisy, and I start getting concerned. I had really planned on keeping this truck as long as possible. During the summer and then into the fall and winter, at first I did think God wanted me to buy another truck, but October came and went and I didn't buy a truck. However, at this time, my oasis in the desert phase has somewhat passed. It's hard to explain. I can imagine people will judge, and it's fine. You can go ahead. The young lady that I was dating has become my ex-girlfriend, but she has kept insisting she wants us to remain friends. And in fact, we've actually become closer than we were when we were dating. Weird, yes, and possibly another topic for another day. I end up moving to another city, many hours from her. Now it's the last week of December 2024, and I'm visiting her for the last week for Christmas and New Year's. As soon as I arrive at her place, my F-150, that noisy valve lifter issue, has gone from one lifter to two lifters, so the engine sounds much worse. And it wasn't that way when I left my place. Now she starts insisting that I need to look at getting another vehicle, because what if I get stuck on my drive back up to where I live, or what if I get, I'm far away from her and she can't help me. So we go to CarMax and we test drive cars and I research cars. All the trucks were way out of my price range, and God was definitely not helping me in this case. There was not going to be a truck. I could tell that right off the bat. Now, all week while we were going back and forth to CarMax, I had been passing by this Toyota Prius on the lot. It was the only one on the lot at CarMax. I didn't even consider it. I had always said I would never drive a hybrid vehicle. Long story short, all our efforts were in vain, and I was left looking at the Prius. So on the last day, I decided to go online, and I find out the Prius actually are pretty reliable, and they can go for multiple hundreds of miles if taken care of. So, okay, anyway, it doesn't matter. I was out of options. Now, one way that God confirmed this for me is that the amount of money that CarMax was willing to give me for my F-150, even with the mechanical issues, and it was a legit offer, because I could sell it to them and not even buy a car from them, and they were still going to give me that money. So that was crazy. Okay, so I'm trying to keep this video as short as possible, and I want to wrap this up. We're now at the last chapter for now. God, during that time of that week with the Prius, he did talk to me in other ways via the Bible and so forth. But I always did wonder, why did God put me in a Prius? I think I have the answer now. Over time, I actually grew to like the Prius. My ex-girlfriend, who's now my best friend, she would ask me if I liked it. And I would at first grudgingly grunt, yeah. I was grateful to God for the car, and it turned out that I hardly spent any money on gas, especially if I was making long trips to go visit her. Now fast forward to the most recent chapter of the story of how God loves us so much, and how he speaks to us, and how he works for us. And even during our worst periods of life, he's there. And he gives you breadcrumbs, and he lifts you up along the way, and he shows you that he loves you. So it's October 2025. I'm very happy with my 2018 Prius. I drive it very carefully. I take good care of it. My goal is to reach that 200 or 300,000 miles. Suddenly, just a few days ago, it began to have a very serious sounding noise, like a mechanical whirling noise. And the pitch and the loudness depended on the speed that I was rolling. It was sudden. One day, no noise. The next day, noise. And I was worried. One thing I didn't mention is I'm retired, so I'm on a seriously low budget. But God has always taken care of me, so I decided to go to a Toyota dealer and have the car repaired, and somehow God would help me. Maybe it wouldn't be that serious. So I'm praying a lot about all this, and I asked God to speak to me via a YouTube video. I open up YouTube, and there's this one right there titled God's Doing Something New. And almost very quickly, the person talks about how there's going to be a new vehicle, among other things. And then it hit me. I had not really realized that it was October. I mean, of course, I know it's October, but I mean in the sense of how it used to mean to me where, on Octobers, God leads me to get a new truck. Since I, have a Prius and it happened in December, January, I totally forgot about that. Now I have this thought, okay, is God doing something since it's October and I've got a problem with my Prius? Now, I do remember months ago spotting a 2025 Prius, and I think, gee, those look really nice. They don't look weird like mine does. And so that's the thing. The Bible talks about God loving to give you the desires of your heart. I never asked him for a new Prius. I really didn't. I just saw a Prius that looked nice, the shape of the newer ones, and I thought, gee, that looks nice. I never asked God for one, never expected to get one. It was just a thought I had. But the Lord knows. And so I prayed, Lord, if you want me to buy a Prius, you need to lead me. And I remember thinking that if this does happen, I would want to get a white Prius because it hides the dirt better. So the next day I go to the dealer, and after some hours, I get bad news. The front wheel bearings are totally shot. And that this did not just happen, that somehow one last little bump or one last little pothole was the straw that broke the camel's back, and some piece was actually broken, but they had been wearing down for the longest time. I was shocked because my 2018 Prius only has 46,000 miles on it, but it had been driven, it came from up north. I thought, whoa, if this thing has bad bearings, what else does it have wrong? So I asked to see about a new Prius. Now remember, I had the color white in mind to hide dirt. Turns out the dealer only had one Prius on the lot, and it was pearl color. This story is not about trucks. It's not about a Prius. It's about God's love, even during very trying times. God loves you, even if you have been in the desert, if you are in the pit at the moment, if you feel like you're drowning. God loves you, even if you feel alone. When the Israelites were in the desert for 40 years, at the end of that time, God reminded them that during all those years, their clothes didn't wear out, their sandals didn't wear out. Now, for the past 21 years, and now starting my 22nd year, I've been essentially homeless. I've not had a place to call my own. I've lived in people's bedrooms. During my oasis period with my girlfriend, yes, I lived at her place and it felt the most like home, but it was never truly home, and maybe that's another topic for another day. But as painful as the past long years have been, I've learned to never, ever doubt that God loves me, even if I don't understand why I'm going through what I'm going through.